Graham Turner, you can understand, we just spoke to Simon Birmingham, he's a little gun-shy about supporting anything to do with court and border closures, perhaps because it's spectacularly failed with Clive Palmer. But do you understand that hesitancy from the federal government?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt that, this is all about politics, and in some states it mightn't be that popular. But, we think, and we've had good legal advice, and there was an article by Leon Zwire in the Australian this morning stating, that there's a much greater chance of success now, particularly if it is unreasonable to keep the borders shut, or it's the courts may well deem it reasonable that they be opened once a certain level of vaccinations happen, and that's basically what we're looking at.
Mr Turner, you've been reasonable, you've been level-headed, you've been calm, as we've spoken to you quite frequently in this pandemic, but it seems with this challenge that you're foreshadowing this morning that you have simply run out of patience.
Yes, I was just listening to the quote the other day about the guy from the film in Network. No, look, we're patient. We want the states, particularly states like Tasmania, Queensland, WA, to have a plan to open their borders. Now, whether that's at 70% vaccination or 80 or even higher, we just want to know what their plan is. And if they don't have a plan, or the plan is unreasonable, or the constitutional lawyers think it's unreasonable, well, that's when we'll take the action. And we're waiting, particularly from the National Cabinet today. They've got a meeting, and they are talking about this, apparently. And I know the Premier, the Queensland Premier, is waiting for this meeting to hopefully tell us what the Queensland plan is to reopen the borders. And, because we do have a constitution, and the constitution clearly states in section 92 about the freedom of movement between states. And, that's, we don't particularly want to have to take states to the High Court, but we will, and it's not only us, I can assure you. This has been well canvassed through the tourism and travel, airline, airport industry, and we have a lot of support on this.
It should be even beyond that. So what kind of high-level support are you getting?
Look, I can assure you that just about everyone I've spoken to a lot of people in the industry. I know a lot of people in the industry. It is basically universal. I don't say that everyone's going to come out publicly and support it, because there's a whole range of reasons. Some companies don't want to publicly show their support for this, but it is very widespread. As a matter of fact, obviously, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't agree with it, even if they don't publicly support it.
Yeah, indeed. Why do you think you might be more successful than perhaps Clive Palmer was almost a year ago? Is it because we have higher levels of vaccine, we see less hospitalisation because of that, and more treatments on offer?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a totally different circumstance now, and certainly when 70 or 80% of the adult population are vaccinated, it'll be a totally different scenario than when the Palmer action happened more than 12 months ago. So the facts have changed dramatically, and that's why the constitutional lawyers that we've been talking to think there's quite a good chance of success this time, just depending on when the timing is, what the vaccination rates exactly are. We know, for example, whether it's WA, Queensland or Tasmania, they have to open their borders at some stage.
Indeed.
It would be unreasonable never to open their borders, and that's what we've got the Constitution for. So it's a matter of timing and when it's safe to do so. What is the vaccination rate? What is the plan? When the vulnerable people are protected, and that's going to be the case now. Totally different circumstances to when Clive Palmer ran his case last year.
Indeed. We're going to get an announcement from the Prime Minister this morning about international borders. This timeline is being brought forward from November, it seems, Graham, that people will be able to travel without seeking permission overseas. Have you heard that? Do you welcome that news?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a surprise. I think we've generally felt that either late October, November, overseas travel from some states anyway would be possible, and coming back. The real issue is not only being able to travel, go out of the country, but it's also coming back without 2 weeks hotel quarantine. And it's pretty obvious to me that a fully vaccinated person coming back into Australia, negatively tested before they leave and as soon as they arrive back here, is much safer to be in the community than the average person walking down the CBD of Sydney. It's fairly obvious because they're not necessarily negatively test negative. They're not necessarily fully vaccinated. So I think the one thing we do need is 1 or 2 days home quarantine and a negative test on arrival back is probably the scenario, and that should happen. I believe that'll probably happen from the beginning of November.
Okay, good news indeed, and we'll end on that. Graham Turner, good luck with it all, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.